All right, lace them up, sports. Let's go.
Let's go.
Will somebody tell me if we're supposed to start the program?
Freeman hits the ball to right field.
Into right field. She is gone.
Oh, what a pass. Doncic, perfection there on the assist. A little magic from Doncic.
Stafford takes the shoulder, takes a shot downfield. It is caught by Nakua. He picked him on his shoulder and made the catch.
One of a kind player. One of a kind season. Shohei Ohtani starts the 50-50 club.
Dumping in on the count. LeBron James at the buzzer.
This game's in the Admiral refrigerator. The door is closed, the lights out. Butter's getting hard, the eggs are cooling, and the jello is jiggling.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the LA Sports Roundup podcast. I'm your host, Mike Andrade, sitting here recording live Thursday morning, May 7th, 2026. I hope everybody's having a great start to their week. Not start. We're more than midway through this week, and lots going on in LA sports. The Lakers are obviously in the NBA playoffs. We have Dodgers baseball to talk about as well. But before we get into everything, guys, I just want again to mention that we need to hit like, subscribe, follow us on all of our social medias. I've been talking about, you being that ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend that stalks the other's social media page, to see what they're up to. Well, you know what? That's exactly what you need to do. You need to stalk our page. I give you full permission to stalk our Lace 'em Up Sports media page on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you can find us on X, YouTube as well, Spotify. I know that's where you're listening, or even Apple Podcasts. Wherever you're listening to, you guys need to hit subscribe, like, and follow us on all of our social media channels because we need your support. That's exactly what we need from you. So I give you full permission to be that crazy ex-girlfriend. And if you are a pro wrestling fan, well, we just recorded a live watch-along of Backlash 2007 on our latest Wrestling with Ryan and Mike podcast. We recorded a watch-along of The Undertaker versus Batista, Last Man Standing from Backlash 2007. Make sure to catch that. We recorded that because the World Heavyweight title will be defended on Saturday in the main event at Backlash. So me and Ryan decided, hey, let's do a watch-along, and we decided on that match, which was, I haven't seen that match in a long time, and it was a pretty damn good match to go ahead and rewatch. So if you're a pro wrestling fan, also we talked about Backlash coming up and some other things going on in pro wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan, go ahead and check that one out, Wrestling with Ryan and Mike. It's already up for you guys to check out. So the last time we recorded a podcast, the Lakers were getting ready for Game 6 versus the Houston Rockets, and I laid out the question, could the Lakers close out the Rockets in Game 6? And they were absolutely successful in doing so. So, since then, the Lakers are officially through their first round matchup, closing out the Houston Rockets in 6 games, but now they have run into the buzzsaw known as the Oklahoma City Thunder. But before we talk about what happened a couple nights ago in Oklahoma City, let's talk about what worked in the closeout game versus Houston. The Lakers beat the Rockets 98-78, a 20-point win, and honestly, this was one of the Lakers' best defensive performances of the season. The Lakers had a really good defensive performance throughout this entire series. And in Game 6 specifically, the Lakers held the Houston Rockets to 35% from the field and just 17% from 3. I mean, that is incredible defense played right there. You got to tip your cap to the Lakers on this series versus Houston because they have not been a good defensive team all year long, but they really, held their own on the defensive end against the Rockets. And granted, the Rockets' offense was pretty horrible in itself this series, and you got to give your hat tip to the Lakers. See, if I was wearing a hat right now, I'd be tipping my cap. But you got to tip your cap to the Lakers for really just locking in on defense during that first round series and just honing in, because the Lakers could have rolled over without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves to start that playoff series. They really could just rolled over and let the Houston Rockets do whatever, but they really focused in. You got to give a lot of credit to J.J. Redick for his coaching abilities during that series. And especially in that Game 6, J.J. Redick made a smart adjustment defensively. Instead of constantly doubling Alperen Sengun, the Lakers trusted DeAndre Ayton, and Ayton stepped up big time. He really outplayed Sengun during that playoff series. You got to really give credit to Ayton during that series because he was, along with Marcus Smart, Ayton was one of the MVPs of that series for the Lakers. But he trusted DeAndre Ayton to handle Sengun, and that allowed perimeter defenders to stay attached to shooters, and Houston never got comfortable. They had no rhythm, no transition game, and no kick-out threes, that's one of the biggest thing that hurts the Lakers in general, is just those wide-open corner kick-out threes that just buries us. But the Lakers honed in, and they were not letting Houston get any of those shots off successfully. The Lakers switched aggressively as well and closed out hard on every possession. That was one of the major things too. Switching and closing out. That's been one of the Lakers' biggest Achilles heels. So, man, you got to give them credit for doing that. And honestly, that's playoff basketball in itself. And then LeBron James. LeBron James looked almost like his vintage self during that Game 6. 28 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and more importantly, man, this guy controlled the pace. When Houston tried to speed up the game, man, LeBron, he slowed it down, man. Not only him, but Marcus Smart, they all slowed the ball down. But every time it seemed like the Houston Rockets wanted to make a run or they wanted to speed up the game, LeBron, he knew what he was doing. This guy's been in a million playoff series before, and he knew exactly what to do during this series, and he knew exactly how to slow it down. And when the Lakers needed offense, he attacked the paint, and it was very, very on point for LeBron James to do so. And when the Rockets collapsed, he found shooters as well. Rui Hachimura stepped up huge for the Lakers, huge. In that Game 6, he had 21 points and went 5 for 7 from 3. And Houston kept loading up on LeBron and Austin Reeves, and Rui just punished them every single time from wide open from 3. I mean, this guy was wide open from the Pacific Ocean, and he was draining them over there in Texas. It was incredible to watch. Now, in Game 5, when Austin Reeves returned to the Lakers lineup, he did not have a good first game back. But in Game 6, he really just found his groove out there, and he was making solid decisions and had a really solid game for himself. His decision-making was on point. He really didn't make any mistakes, and he had a good defensive effort. And, the key thing for the Lakers and Austin Reeves in general, you know what? Because he was one of the primary ball handlers. They only had 11 turnovers. I mean, that is huge. When you can control your turnovers to just 11, that's pretty damn good. I mean, obviously you'd want it to be less, but 11 turnovers, that's huge. That's going to win you some ball games. Look, Houston, they had won 2 games in a row. They really put the pressure on the Lakers, and the Lakers really stepped up. And I knew going into Game 6 that they were gonna close things out. Not because I'm just a cocky Lakers fan, but I knew that LeBron James really he knew exactly how to close this one out on the road. And yeah, you know what? They were tired in Game 5. They were tired in Game 4 as well. But in Game 6, they were not going to let it go to a Game 7 back in LA. So good on the Lakers for closing it out. Some people were saying that was the last win of the season because we knew we were getting Oklahoma City, and boy, did we get Oklahoma City on Tuesday night. Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals, the Thunder just reminded everybody why they're the number 1 seed and why they are the defending NBA champions. The Thunder won 108-90, but honestly, it does feel like the Lakers were more competitive in this game than prior games in the regular season. But also, Oklahoma City, they just controlled all this game. And you know what? They controlled the energy, they controlled the matchup advantages, and they were just in control all 48 minutes. But let's start. What worked well for the Lakers in Game 1? Let's start with the positive again. LeBron was still excellent. He had 27 points, 6 assists. Rui Hachimura stayed aggressive with 18 points on really efficient shooting. And get this, for stretches, the Lakers actually really bothered Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that really matters. The Lakers trapped hard. They sent aggressive help. They forced SGA into a rough first half with more turnovers and then assists early in the game. So the initial game plan, it wasn't terrible, but the execution in the second half really fell apart. Austin Reeves. We'll talk about Austin Reeves. This was one of the worst playoff games we've ever seen from him offensively. 8 points, 3 for 16 shooting. They call him Stone Cold Austin Reeves. He was definitely repping Stone Cold out there for his 3 for 16 shooting. He went 0 for 5 from 3 and 4 turnovers. The turnovers don't really bother me, but it's the 0 for 5 from 3 and the 3 for 16 shooting. That's abysmal. That really is abysmal. Considering this guy wants to get paid a Supermax contract this upcoming year. He's in that discussion to get paid, not a Supermax, but a max contract. a max contract that's going to get him well over $100 million. And this does not bode well for a guy that wants to get paid over $100 million going into the offseason. It really doesn't. You can't have a guy that you're going to pay over $100 million and go 3 for 16 from the field in a playoff game. In a really important playoff game on the road as well. I mean, listen to this. According to reports, it's one of the worst shooting performances by a Laker in a playoff game in 35 years, with at least 15 shot attempts. I mean, that's brutal. Look at now. To be fair, he's coming off an oblique injury. OKC has one of the best defenses in basketball, and Lou Dort and those guys that are covering him, they're pretty relentless defenders. But the Lakers cannot win this series if Austin Reeves plays like that. They're going to get blown out. If he plays like that again, they're going to get blown out. They just can't. And look, without Luka, Reeves has to step up as either the number 1 or number 2 guy shooting on this team. He just can't have a performance like that. When he has a performance like that, the Lakers are going to lose. Reeves has to become the secondary creator next to LeBron when Luka is out. And when he struggles, the offense stagnates, spacing collapses, transition defense suffers after misses, and LeBron has to do way too much at age 41. That's what happened in Game 1. And, there was some good, and there's some bad, and there's some ugly from the Lakers, okay? And here's the ugly. There's several major problems. One, the turnovers. The Lakers committed 18 turnovers against the Thunder in Game 1. That's death. The Thunder are way too young, athletic, fast, and deep, and you cannot give them transition defense. Like, they're going to score almost 100% of the time. If you turn the ball over, which the Lakers did 18 times, compared to the 11 times they did in Game 6 versus the Houston Rockets, that's way too much. You want to be able to keep that down as much as possible. Look, you're going to turn over the ball, yeah, in some ways. In basketball, that's just what it is. But to have 18 against the defending champions who they hone their craft on defense, that's death for the Lakers. That really is. And the Lakers repeatedly made lazy cross-court passes and late reads against pressure. And then we could talk about the bench production. OKC dominated the bench battle, 34-15. That's a massive problem. I do want to mention that the Lakers did lose Jared Vanderbilt midway through the game. Vanderbilt came up with a horrific injury to his pinky. I think it was his left. I think it might have been his right pinky, actually. But his right pinky was massively dislocated. A bone was sticking out through his skin. It was disgusting. It was something that you never want to see any player go through on the court. He did so while trying to attempt a block shot. His hand got caught at the edge of the backboard. His pinky just went all the way back, and it was just completely gruesome. Vanderbilt just was writhing in pain, and so hopefully Vanderbilt can make a quick, smooth recovery. Obviously, I don't expect him to be playing at all during this series now that has happened. If the Lakers can miraculously advance, we hope to see Vanderbilt back, but right now he's weirdly being listed day to day, which I find that weird for your bone being stick out of your skin in your pinky. That's weird to be day to day, but whatever it is, I expect him to be out. And quick prayers and recover to Jared Vanderbilt. But we also didn't see much production from guys like Luke Kennard. We didn't see any real production from any of the other guys off the bench as well. Jackson Hayes. The Lakers need everybody to contribute if they're going to find themselves winning any games throughout this series. They need everybody to step up, and they cannot have Luke Kennard, who really had a great game 1 against the Houston Rockets. But where has he been? Where has he been throughout the Rocket series, except for Game 1 and then the start of this playoff series against the Oklahoma City Thunder? Where's he been? I don't know where the hell he's been. He's on a milk carton because he's not doing much out there. He's looking more like Michael Cera out there than Luke Kennard. We need everybody to be stepping up, and look at the offense. It's really stagnant at points. The Lakers only scored 90 points. That's their lowest playoff output since 2021. Too much isolation with LeBron, too much standing around, not enough movement, and I go back to the isolation too. Too much isolation with Austin Reeves, who couldn't do anything with the ball out there. And look, once OKC adjusted to the Lakers, trapping Shea it didn't really work. Because Chet Holmgren, he ate out there. I know he's a really skinny guy, but he was feasting out there. Chet, in 31 minutes, had 24 points, 9 from 17 from field goal, 2 for 2 from three-point line, 4 for 4 with free throws, 12 rebounds, and 1 assist. That guy, he was the MVP of that game for sure. And look, everyone else, the Lakers did a good job on Lou Dort and Hartenstein. AJ Mitchell, though, he was a problem for the Lakers as well. But you know what? You got to give a lot of credit, though. I thought DeAndre Ayton did play a very solid game as well, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. The Lakers need more. They need more from the role players if they're going to be any successful at all. But the series is not over after one game. But here's the reality. The Lakers have very little margin for error against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They need Austin Reeves to bounce back immediately. He needs to have a 20-point night in Game 2. He really, really does. They need him badly out there. If they have any chance of winning, he needs to have a great scoring night. And the Lakers defense also just needs to continue to be par for course over here and just continue to play really good championship level defense if they're going to have any chance at winning any of these games. But again, better bench minutes from all these guys on the bench, including Luke Kennard, fewer turnovers, better transition defense, and they just need to continue to be physical out there. Just out physical them. If you can really, without fouling, obviously, but if you can just be physical out there and let them know that you're not here to fuck around and just grab rebounds and just be ugly out there, that's going to be a big time opportunity for the Lakers, because OKC, they want to have a track meet out there. But if you can put them on their ass at some points, they're going to slow them down. So that's what the Lakers need to do. The encouraging part is that the Lakers did defend well for stretches. They did bother SGA early. And LeBron still looks capable of carrying huge playoff minutes. So that's promising. But the scary part is that OKC is, they didn't even play their best game on offense, and they still won by 18. So, take that for what it is. But the big takeaway is the Lakers showed championship-level defense in Game 6 against Houston. But Oklahoma City is just a different animal in itself. And so the Lakers need to just play their best game, really play as perfect as possible in order to get a victory here for Game 2. But it's not impossible, I would say. But the Lakers, they need some luck on their side as well. All right, switching things over now, we're going to be talking a little Dodgers baseball. Look, the Dodgers are still a powerhouse like everyone expected them to be. The Dodgers have spent the last couple of weeks reminding everyone why they're still the standard in the National League, even with injuries piling up. They've continued winning series and putting pressure on opposing pitchers and pitching staffs almost every single night. And what stands out for the Dodgers right now is their depth. This isn't a team relying on one or two stars. Obviously, this is what the Dodgers have paid these guys to do, right? They have brought in multiple stars. And now they're not just depending on Shohei. They're not just depending on Freeman. They're not just depending on Kyle Tucker. Depending on everyone pulling through, especially like guys like Yamamoto, who's still looking absolutely incredible out there. But that's not to say there aren't some problems with the Dodgers right now. They have looked a little inconsistent, especially with their pitching staff in their rotation as well. And there's been some little concerning things, especially over the last 15 games. The Dodgers are hovering around the top of the NL West while going through a difficult stretch that included a 4-game losing streak against St. Louis and Houston, even though they just beat the crap out of Houston yesterday. But injuries to key pitchers, inconsistent bullpen performances, and some cold stretches from their hitters. Even their latest signee, Kyle Tucker, he's been really, really inconsistent, even though he did have a walk-off again a couple games ago, or maybe been last week or so. He had gotten himself out of a funk, but Kyle Tucker, he's been one of the guys that has struggled coming out of the gates with the Dodgers, but he's slowly finding his way back into getting form. But with that, the Dodgers offense is still really elite. Even with the recent losses, the Dodgers continue raking near at the top of baseball in OPS, slugging, extra base hits, and the biggest reason is that they have insane, absurd lineup depth. But let's talk a little bit of the stats here with some of their major contributors. We can start with Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani continues to be the engine of the offense on the season so far. He's averaging 2.72 average, .402 on base percentage, .506 slugging, and 5 home runs early in this season. But beyond the numbers, the quality of contact remains elite. He's forcing pitchers into deep counts and creating pressure almost immediately at the top of the lineup. Even the Dodgers losing streak, opposing teams still pitched around him carefully. Freddie Freeman. Freeman has just been the Iron Man for the Dodgers, and he has quietly been one of the Dodgers' most consistent hitters lately. He's hitting close to a .300 average, and over the last couple weeks, he has had fewer strikeouts, more line drives, and better production with runners in scoring position. He's basically stabilized the middle of the lineup during cold stretches from others. We could talk about Teoscar Hernandez. He's probably been one of the hottest players overall at power recently. A .306 batting average, 5.31 slugging, 3 home runs, and 11 runs batted in recent play. And the most important part, he's protecting Ohtani and Freeman. He's basically been that three-man with Mookie Betts out in terms of who's been the biggest production on the Dodgers offense. And pitchers can't simply pitch around because of the stars around him. And Teoscar has really been one of those guys that has just been punishing them for mistakes. Andy Pages, he's emerging. Pages has become one of the biggest surprises for the Dodgers. He's currently leading the team in batting average and recently exploded with a 3-home run game against the Houston Astros. And it came up huge because the Dodgers offense had been cooling off a lot before that. But Pages' resurgence has given the lineup another dangerous right-handed bat. And you know what? It's working really, really well for the Dodgers. And then plate discipline. The Dodgers continue to grind pitchers down. They're among the MLB leaders in walks, pitches per plate appearances, and on-base percentage. That matters because it destroys opposing bullpens longer in their series. And when they're not hitting home runs, they're manufacturing stress. Power production for the Dodgers. We could talk a little bit about that. The Dodgers continue to generate extra base hits at an elite rate. Max Muncy has quietly been crushing baseballs lately. He has a .600 slugging percentage, 8 home runs already. And when Muncy is producing, the lineup almost becomes unfair at points. Now, like I have said, it all hasn't been great for the Dodgers. They've had a lot of inconsistency, especially against good pitching. Against quality starters recently, the Dodgers have had stretches where they have struggled to hit the ball hard. Situational hitting disappears, and they have struggled to capitalize on traffic. And that's something to watch long term because we all know in October, baseball becomes heavily matchup based. But the pitching analysis, it's like, look, the rotation has been one of the biggest Dodgers problems. Tyler Glasnow, he had an injury scare. Glasnow recently exited the game with lower back tightness. Thank God it's nothing too severe, but, an injury to Tyler Glasnow, the Dodgers are again going to be down another pitcher. But you know what? Glasnow, he's also been producing pretty good this season too. But durability has been his biggest question. He's one of the best pitchers in the game, but, consistency for him being on the field, that's just been one of his biggest issues as of late. We all know when he's out there, he has a devastating slider. His fastball is elite, and he could strike them out with one of the best, but just getting him on the mound has been a problem. But one thing the Dodgers do not have to worry about is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's been really just settling in. This has been one of the biggest positives recently for the Dodgers. Yamamoto looks increasingly comfortable against hitters. His splitter has improved dramatically. His command looks sharper, and hitters are chasing more frequently. Look at the Dodgers. He's their ace. He's their absolute ace, and however Yamamoto goes, that's how far the Dodgers are going to go. I'm saying that right now. But you know what? The bullpen has actually shown some resilience despite injuries. In the Astros series, the bullpen recovered 24 outs after Glasnow exited. They allowed minimal damage. This is one of the last games against the Astros, and their flexibility is valuable. But what's not working is consistency. Over the last 15 games, they've had too many walks. Occasional command collapses and middle relief instability has shown up repeatedly. So, if the Dodgers want to have a chance at having a successful regular season, they're really going to need that bullpen to step up and not collapse. Kind of like we saw that a little bit last season, but they were able to overcome that. But as these games go on throughout the months. You cannot have that if you want to win games, repeatedly, because the season is long, and you need to have really consistent bullpen in order for you to be a top-tier playoff team. And that's exactly what the Dodgers are, but, you can't have that working against you. So, some final takeaways here. Over the last 15 games, the Dodgers have shown that they're still one of the best baseball teams in the league, and they're one of the most talented teams. They're still elite. The offense remains explosive. Ohtani continues to produce. Freeman and Teoscar are carrying major run production. Andy Pages, he has really been emerging as a top-tier star for the Dodgers, and the line of death is just ridiculous, So if the Dodgers can just get real in their bullpen, honestly, I don't know what kind of flaws the Dodgers are going to have in October. If they can get that bullpen right, they're going to be really scary to watch. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Again, like, subscribe, follow us on all of our social medias. We really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Let's get our numbers up. But that's going to do it for today's podcast, guys. I really thank you guys for joining in. My name is Mike Andrade, and I'll see you next time.